Hey Ninja lovers, welcome to my channel, a place where we talk about dating and relationships and flirting and sex and everything in between using personality theories such as the Myers-Briggs system and the Enneagram system. But today, of course, we're not talking about any of those. We're going to talk about anxiety because anxiety is something that I've struggled with for the past 2 decades, and it ain't pretty, it ain't easy, nothing ever is really. In my teens, it used to be one-off episodes right before exams, but in my 20s, oh boy, I had full-blown panic attacks, right? And anxiety used to just seize me, and all these anxious thoughts would kind of pummel me and make me feel like nothing good was ever going to happen. And I used to feel stuck, powerless, like I would be stuck in this loop forever, just suffering. And I don't want you to go there. And even if you do, I want you to know that it is okay. It's going to be okay. Accept it for what it is. But besides seeking therapy and going on medication, there's also other tools that you can add to your toolbox to cope with anxiety in a healthy way. And I did it the only way I thought could benefit you, which is gathering opinions from the 16 personalities and finding out how they deal with their anxiety and episodes of panic attacks. And you should know that you're not the only one. All of us deal with it, so you're not alone, okay? Whether you're a thinker or a feeler, especially if you're a feeler, you're gonna feel like you're the only one on this planet who has to deal with anxiety, but that ain't so, okay? All of us have our triggers, and we just have to find a way to cope with it, okay? So here goes. So we start off our list with ENFJs, and ENFJs say that you should start typing on your phone if you're in a public space, right? If you're having a panic attack, just pull your phone out and just start typing. It doesn't matter. Maybe it could be just thoughts in your head or whatever you see around you, right? And typing takes time because you have to look at the keys and you have to hit them. And in addition to thinking your thoughts and like putting them in sentences, right? So because the entire process takes time, it's going to kind of slow you down naturally and maybe slow down your heartbeat as you go through with it. Okay. So here's tip number 2, suggested by an ESFJ, which is to grab some ice and kind of just rub it on your face. This is super cold. And that's the whole point. It's for you to feel the cold, feel that sensation. And that's kind of like a distraction, right? It distracts you from your thoughts because this shit is cold, okay? Because it's ice. So here's tip number 3, suggested by an INFP, box breathing, which is you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it in for 4, and then exhale for another 4, okay? So we can try it together right now. So inhale. Exhale for 4. And you're done. Okay. Tip number 4, suggested by an ISFP and my favorite in the list, which is find yourself a cool, dark room and listen to some lo-fi music, okay? Tip number 5, suggested by an ENFP, is to close your eyes, think of a color, focus on your breathing and think of a color, any color. Just kind of hold it in like a circle of color and make it pop and think of another color and just keep doing it until your breathing slows down. Tip number 6, suggested by an ENTP, is to trivialize the event or the task that is making you anxious, okay? Don't make it bigger than it is. Just make it something small and insignificant because at the end of the day, nothing really matters, right? We're just a speck in this universe. Tip number 7 from an INFJ is to accept things for what they are. Resistance only prolongs suffering. So write out this wave and know that all of your thoughts are like waves, right? Waves in the ocean, and they hit all of us, the same thoughts at different points in our lives, and they keep coming back. So recognize that it's a pattern. It's going to happen today or tomorrow or the day after to all of us. So we're all in this together. So we just have to accept it and ride it out. So don't fight it. Okay, tip number 8 suggested by an INTJ is to think about the history of the universe, all the events that have transpired, to go back as far as you can until you feel sort of insignificant, like a speck of stardust, which is kind of very similar to what the ENTP suggested, right? To kind of like trivialize everything. And alternatively, if this doesn't work for you, the INTJ suggests that you talk it out with an INFJ. Here are some smart tips from the smartest personality types in the MBTI, INTPs and ISTPs. So the INTP, so tip number 9 suggested by an INTP is just don't have panic attacks. That's the best way to deal with them. But besides that, just recognize that all that's happening inside of your head is basically an assumption, right? Your thought is an assumption about what's happening, your assumption about what the feeling is, and your assumption about what the scenario is, right? So recognize that these are all assumptions and they are not true, and hence you can kind of cut out those thoughts, irrational thoughts, untruths, right? And the 10 suggested by an ISTP is to make sure your body and your mind do not panic at the same time, okay? So get to a space, maybe like a bathroom, if you're out in a public space, and just sit down, okay? Just make yourself comfortable, have some water nearby, just kind of breathe in and breathe out and let your mind panic, okay? Let it happen, but as long as you know that your physical body is at rest and you're being comforted, right? You should be able to deal with it. And you can ask yourself questions, right? You can to ground yourself in the moment. You could ask questions like, where am I? What am I doing? Can I move my hands and my feet? Right? So those questions should help ground you in the moment. So here's tip number 11 suggested by an ENTJ, and which is by far the quirkiest tip on the list. And this made me laugh really hard. So let's say you're out in a public space and you're having a panic attack, an episode. Just pull out your phone, turn the camera on, okay? And just look at yourself, stare at your pretty face, and keep talking to yourself, as simple as that. And just keep doing that until you calm down, right? It could be like, you're talking to your reflection. So yeah. And the ESTJ, tip number 12 suggested by an ESTJ is to be kind of straightforward, right? No obfuscation. Just talk it out loud. Recognize that you're having a panic attack and say it out loud. Yeah, I am having a panic attack. And if you're with people around you, just let them know that you're having a panic attack. There's no shame in that. Remember, the biggest struggle is when you start associating shame with your panic attacks, okay? Because I went through this and I can super relate to this. So don't ever do that to yourself. It is a natural response, just like when you need to cry. Just tell people around you that you need to cry. It doesn't matter if you are with your co-workers, okay? Let them know you're human. I mean, you're gonna feel these emotions and you're not always in control of your emotions. So just be straightforward, let it out there, let people know, and take away the shame that you associate with anxiety or panic attacks, okay? So tip number 13, suggested by an ESTP, is to splash cold water on your face. Again, very similar to the ice thing. So just splash some cold water, and let's say you're having a panic attack in a public space or a supermarket or something like that. It's just to kind of ask yourself, like, what's the next thing you need to do? What's the next item you need to buy on your grocery list, for example, right? So that's how you can navigate it, by focusing your mind on a task that needs to be done. I know this can be hard when you're having a panic attack. So the immediate thing would be like to splash cold water, like feel that sensation, kind of distract your mind. And when you're feeling slightly in control of your thoughts, you can get to the task, right? Okay. Tip number 14, suggested by an ESFP, is to focus on what's going on in your environment, okay? What's real in the environment, because what's happening up there is kind of intangible, right? So kind of bring yourself to the present moment, ground yourself. So you can do this by, you can either like pull out paper and pen and write down 5 things you see. Okay, 5 things around you, 5 objects that you see, 4 things that you can smell, okay, 3 things that you can hear, and 2 things that you can feel with your hands, and 1 thing that you can taste, okay, your 5 senses, okay, use them. Tip number 15, suggested by an ISTJ, is so it doesn't matter if you are in a restaurant or at work, you just have to excuse yourself, okay, and go to the bathroom, okay. Any private space where you can talk to yourself, and you can hear your voice, and you can hear the anxiety clambering over your voice, okay. So you need to hear yourself. So talk it out loud, okay, talk to yourself, and excuse yourself. You don't have to provide an explanation, right? You can just tell people if you're feeling embarrassed, if you're feeling ashamed, you can just say that you need a moment to yourself, okay, and you deserve it. You need that space, you need that time to process whatever is going on. So just do that. Don't feel ashamed. Okay, and the last tip, tip number 16, suggested by an ISFJ, is kind of similar to an ISTJ, which is isolate yourself, okay? Remove yourself from the situation that you're in. And once you find your private space, your safe space, just cry it out. Because remember, there's sadness, okay, associated with anxiety. There is sadness, there is fear, there's also sadness. And crying is cathartic. So when you let it out, it kind of helps soothe you. Okay, so just cry it out. All right, folks, so that's a wrap. If you found this content useful to you, please like this video and subscribe to my channel, so I may be encouraged to produce more content and drop it right here on this channel. And if you have struggled with anxiety, or if you still struggle with anxiety, I'd like to hear your journey. So please share your story with me and let me know what worked for you, right? So I can expand the conversation around this topic. So drop me an email with your opinions, your story, your struggles, your challenges, and your coping mechanisms. My email is emailloveninja@gmail.com. As always, don't get complacent. Love you, love me, love Ninja.